No. Okay. Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm so honored and excited to have Dr. Pfeiffer with us tonight. He has some extremely interesting information to share with us about migraines and their causes and the ways that he has found to help mitigate them. So before we start, I wanted to tell you how I ended up working with Dr. Pfeiffer. So this is a little bit about my story. I started getting migraines in my early 30s in 2008. It was a super busy period at work, stretching myself to the maximum. I, of course, love the challenges of throwing myself into my daily work, but probably was running on quite a high stress. And at the same time, I was out almost every night with colleagues and friends, eating and drinking, and probably drinking a little bit too much alcohol. I had a clear lack of sleep, and my movement was sporadic. I clearly remember having an employee call me actually with a migraine. And at the time, I didn't quite appreciate the severity of migraines and thought, well, it's a bad headache. But of course, I granted him the sick leave. But it's crazy how I actually hadn't quite understood at that point what that meant. I slowly started getting more frequent headaches, and at one stage, I needed to be driven home from work because I ended up with a cracking headache with tunnel vision and nausea, and then unfortunately vomited on the way home, which was very unfortunate for the colleague. Uh, I ended up, after that, I actually ended up signing up for a Ironman triathlon, and I have to say that that was after a night of alcohol where I got challenged to do this. But it was actually a bit of a godsend because it really helped me to change my lifestyle. And through the process of this regular exercise and more focused time at work, I noticed that the frequency of my migraines became less and less until actually they disappeared. So sports really changed my lifestyle in this situation and helped to overcome the migraines. But in hindsight, I never got to the bottom of these migraines until I met Dr. Pfeiffer. And I just want to point out that I don't feel you should go and do an Ironman triathlon. That's not necessary to overcome migraines. So fast forward to 2017, I ended up getting these migraines again, which I was quite surprised about because I thought I was done with them. Again, I was in a stressful job and exercise was sporadic. Frequencies started to be coming more often, and it would floor me for 3 days at a time in bed with head pain, nausea, and also vomiting. So we actually moved to Germany a year later, and the frequency then started to get to every 2 weeks, which was obviously very debilitating. Went to the GP, they gave me medication to ease the head pain and suggested it was hormonal. But as I was tracking it, I couldn't relate it to my monthly cycles. So I was convinced there was something else going on and wanted to get to the bottom of it. Um, so all in all, pretty miserable at that point in time. I was seeing an osteopath, and she referred me to look up Dr. Pfeiffer. She explained that she had heard him lecture at her course in her osteopathy course in Munich. And she explained that he had written a book, The Migraine Detective. At the time, I had met a friend, Cindy, who's actually here tonight. And she has also been suffering from migraines for about 30 years, on and off as well. And I shared the information that I had gotten about the book. And she promptly went to buy the book and started just sharing extracts from the book for me. And Dr. Pfeiffer, I have bought the book now, but I read one extract and I was already ready. I had already contacted Dr. Pfeiffer. I had booked an appointment, And both Cindy and I then traveled down to Stuttgart to meet Dr. Pfeiffer. So our journey of curing our migraines began. And, oh, sorry. Oh, there. And that's me now in recovery. So as I found out, Dr. Pfeiffer is a true detective. The support and input he has given me is truly life-changing. We, from the results that he took in terms of bloods and my history, there was various vitamin and mineral deficiencies that emerged, presence of H. pylori bacteria, which was causing a digestive issue, and some food sensitivities to dairy and wheat. And through his support, I was able to start making and implementing changes, taking supplements, etc. And over time, since then, these migraines that I was having every two weeks for 3 days are now gone. I may have the occasional migraine, but this is very occasional, and I now know what is the trigger points and how I can better manage them, and they're down to 1 day. So I'm a true testimony of Dr. Pfeiffer, and it's been a really incredible journey. So I would now like to introduce Dr. Pfeiffer, and he is a medical doctor and an osteopath. After training in neurology, psychiatry, and internal medicine, he has been working in his private practice in Stuttgart since 2004. He specializes in the treatment of chronic pain and fatigue syndrome. His specialties are osteopathy, neurotherapy, mitochondria medicine. And over half of his patients come from his practice due to migraine or chronic headaches. He's also a lecturer in internal medicine and is a member of the examination committee at the German Osteopathy School. And he's also the author of the Migraine Detective book. So just before handing over, I just wanted to say that if you have any questions and answers, questions, we'll have a question and answer session at the end of the session. So if you want to collect them or put them on the chat, then we can pick them up after. So over to you, Dr. Pfeiffer, and thank you so much for being here tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. And so I'll begin with my presentation. Do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you clearly, Dr. Pfeiffer.
Okay, good. Okay, then thank you very much, Anne, for your nice and friendly introduction. So I don't have to introduce myself anymore. You did it better than I could. We can go right to the topic. I want to tell you how I came to the migraine therapy. Around 20 years ago, I did my acupuncture courses, and you can imagine I was very enthusiastic about my Chinese needles, and after a few weeks already I had 2 cases of successful healing of migraine, at least for a couple of months. The patients treated with just acupuncture were free of migraine, and so I was very happy, and I thought now I know how migraine goes, and I did a lot of public relation to bring people to my private practice, and I had to figure out by the time that it was only about 20% of the patients I could help with acupuncture. So I thought it's very pure public relation if I have 80% lack of success, yeah. If 80% of the patients leave the practice unsatisfied. So I knew I have to learn something more. I did the courses in neurotherapy, osteopathy, 5 years school of osteopathy, then a lot of courses in bioidentic hormone therapy, mitochondria therapy, and all the informations I could collect about migraine, I collected. And now I can say migraine is curable. And I want to go against this old-fashioned dogma that migraine cannot be cured. I think every doctor knows a couple of patients who had migraines in their history and don't have migraine anymore. Now, the idea of traditional medicine is that it can happen accidentally that migraine is cured, but we cannot do it. We cannot force it to be healed. We can just give triptans and other painkillers for the rest of the life, and the rest is genetic, and we cannot do anything. This is a wrong opinion. I've seen that so many times, and I want to tell you.
Dr. Pfeiffer, can I just ask you to, I think you're going to share your presentation.
Yes.
Do you want to share it now?
Yes, I thought I'm sharing it.
No.
No. Okay. Then okay, I have to go to this. Where is it now?
Still not. No.
See it? Okay. Okay, then I don't know what happened.
Do you want me to share? Do you want me to share it?
Yeah, then.
Okay. Let me just. Are you able to, or I will go ahead?
I think go ahead. Something's wrong here.
Okay. So here we go. I think you're about here. Is this where you're at?
Pardon?
This is where you're at?
No. Something's wrong. Okay. This is what am I doing wrong?
So Anne is sharing the slides now, Dr. Pfeiffer. Can you see Anne? And she can move the slides for you if you check the window. The Zoom window.
The Zoom window.
Oh,
Can't see the Zoom window.
Okay, I can see Dr. Pfeiffer's as well.
I don't.
Screen. Okay, so.
Okay, I try again to open. And then
Now we don't see the presentation at all. Oh, no,
Okay.
No.
Yeah, there was an option that multiple people could share. So I think this was a confusing thing. So I just changed to one participant can share at a time. So whoever can share now.
Thank God for the technical person here.
So, do you see?
No.
Where shall I? Presentation.
If you can.
It.
So I think if you click on the share screen, if you see the share screen on the bottom, green button of the Zoom window. Or then maybe Anne can share and then she moves the slides for you.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Ah, there we go.
Here we go. Okay.
Perfecto. Something.
Okay.
You're sharing something.
Okay.
It's black still.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay. I'll mute.
Then we do. Okay. You see that migraine? You see the presentation now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So before we talk about the causes, I want to give you the definition for migraine. It's a suddenly appearing, periodically reappearing, mainly one-sided, and with nausea and vomiting, going headache. And to understand how we can help people, we have to understand the barrel model. There's a lot of different causes that can produce migraine. For example, scars or food intolerances or hormonal disbalances or intestinal microbiome problems or whiplash injuries, all kind of, or eye problems, teeth problems, leg length differences. All these kind of things can put volume into the barrel of our causes, migraine causes. And then if it's only 50% full, nothing will happen because the body has a very big capacity to compensate all kind of disturbance influences. But if the barrel is full, it will overflow and then we have the migraine. So from that point of view, it doesn't matter if we take volume from the bottom or from the top of the barrel. We just have to get it half empty or half full, and then the migraine will be gone. Here, this we didn't introduce. It's the barrel of causes. It can be mitochondrial damage by nitrostress, for example. Nitrostress is the overproduction of NO, monoxide, nitric monoxide, which is, for example, in some medicine. Also, an unstable cervical spine can produce that, or bronchial asthma or sinusitis. All these factors can produce NO, excessive NO, and that is one can damage the mitochondria. Then osteopathic or biomechanic causes. Food like excessive eating of intolerant foods or high sugar diet, histamine intolerances, drinking, not enough drinking is one of the causes. Then there are psychic causes as well, as I will tell you a nice story about that later. scar, fields of disturbance, chronic inflammations can produce zones of irritations in the brain. Lack of hormones and neurotransmitters are in the barrel. And finally, there's also some genetic causes, which usually, I think, don't fill up more than 10 to 20% of the barrel, but they might be in, they might cause problems like food intolerances. To understand how migraine attacks appear, we have to understand that in the brainstem, in the oldest part of our brain, which even the dinosaurs had that part of the brain already, there's a permanent control whether there's enough water, enough sugar, and enough oxygen. If one of these parameters falls down, an alarm button will be pressed, neuropeptides will be liberated, and they will cause vasoconstriction first in the brain, which might cause an aura because one part of the brain will not be properly irrigated. If it's the eyes, for example, visual turbulences will appear, visual disturbances. And then after about 20 to 40 minutes, slowly the vessels, the blood vessels will get larger, and this vasodilatation will irritate the trigeminous nerve in the brain. And this is the migraine nerve. Without trigeminous nerve irritation, no migraine. So if one of these three parameters falls, migraine can be caused. So we have to be very careful to drink enough, to keep the sugar level on a stable, more or less stable. It's not perfectly, never is perfectly stable, but to avoid very high fluctuations of the blood sugar, as we have them if we eat sugar or flour products. I proceed in 4 steps in the migraine research. First, I ask the patients for the patient's history. Then I do some laboratory analysis. Then I do osteopathic and posturologic diagnose. And then I check neurotherapeutically for interference fields like inflammations and scars. Okay, with the patient's history, my first question is, when did it appear? And what were the circumstances of appearance? Most people tell me they had their first migraine attack when they were 12 to 16 years, puberty, teenager age, and often in connection with the first menstruation or with the first intake of the pill, anticonceptional medication. Some few people have from childhood, when they were 5 to 6 years old or even earlier, which goes either together with an accident or with a strong genetic component then. And some people have their first migraine in their 20s or 30s or 40s. And then there's often hormonal or postural, osteopathically treatable causes. I ask, does anybody in your family suffers from migraine? And many patients tell me, yes, my mother, my grandmother, and her mother, and all of them had migraine. How is that possible? Is there a migraine gene? I mean, it's not very useful if you think in evolution to keep a migraine gene. I mean, we should expect these people to have died out thousands of years ago if they had this migraine gene, because survival was much more difficult than nowadays. And what my idea is, I think migraine is there's not a migraine gene, but a genetic disposition that doesn't fit with our nowadays with our food habits nowadays. Yeah. For example, if you have the genes of these Stone Age people who lived for 5,000 years ago and who were mainly eating meat, vegetable, nuts, fish, things like that. They didn't know flour products, they didn't know sugar. And now if you have this type of genes and you eat mainly flour and sugar products, yeah, sweets, bread, cake, things like that, noodles all day long. This is like as if you were a penguin and you should eat fish, but you eat noodles, yeah, chicken food, yeah. You will never feel really as a penguin should feel, yeah. You will always feel like a sick penguin. So there's a genetic disposition that doesn't fit to our food habits. Whiplash injuries, I found that cause 14 years ago. One patient showed me this book here, Your Neck, the Weakest Link, from Dr. Kuklinski. And I must admit, I learned a lot of patience. So if you are a therapist, never be arrogant and think you know everything. You can learn a lot of patience. And because they know their disease sometimes better than you know. And the connection between whiplash injuries, actions, operations, and migraine is the following. If you have a whiplash accident, your cervical spine is often overextended, yeah? And some ligaments are overextended, and this whole thing is unstable, yeah? Mainly during movement, like jogging, for example, it's unstable. And this produces short-time interruptions of the blood circulation here in the brain. And this doesn't cause only biomechanical consequences, but also biochemical consequences. Yeah, there's a lot of there's a chemical reaction appearing where the amino acid citrulline is divided in citrulline, another amino acid, and NO, nitric oxide. Yeah, and this nitric oxide is a gas. It goes into the whole body, into the body cells, into the mitochondria, the energy plants of our cells, and produces destruction there, which gives us a state of fatigue, chronic fatigue, and a higher sensibility to pain. Causes for this nitrooxidative stress are instability of cervical spine, as I said, sinusitis, asthma, COPD, gastritis, thyroid or thyroid diseases like Hashimoto. All of them can produce nitrooxidative stress. The energy production in the mitochondria can be blocked not only by NO, also by heavy metals. That's why we check in the laboratory for heavy metal. It's a urinary check. We check for toxins like smoke, herbicide, insecticides can reduce the energy production in the mitochondria. Lot of medications like beta blockers, fat reducers, and cholesterol lowers, like protein pump inhibitors, antacids. All of them may damage mitochondria and may produce chronic pain and fatigue through that. Excessive consumption of refined carbohydrates. Can you imagine your mitochondria? You can imagine like 4,000 to 5,000 mitochondria are in one cell. So if you have 4,000 to 5,000 little goldfish in an aquarium and somebody turns a big bag of sugar into the aquarium, this is what happens. They're suffering. They're suffering. They can't breathe anymore. In this thick, sweet sauce, they should produce energy and they can't do it anymore. So in these cases, it's very important to reduce refined carbohydrates like sugar and flour, to let them breathe, to let them work, the mitochondria, because they are producing our energy. Without them, we are just low lights. Then emotional or psychological stress can add also a little to this nitro stress. Here, I want to show you a laboratory analysis of a patient that came to me after taking 2 months tablets of magnesium, copper, iron, zinc, and selenium. And you see here, big lack of calcium, potassium, copper, iron, zinc, and selenium. It's just like she seems to take all these substances and nobody knows where they're going because in the cells they don't arrive. Then I gave this patient the same things that she took in plus Regulat Pro Metabolic, which is a very interesting product. It's made out of fruits and nuts, which are in cascades fermented a couple of times, and every time with lactobacterias and bifidobacterias, again fermented. And so it's a product very rich in enzymes and in biophenols and lactic acid, right-turning lactic acid. And you see all these minerals which were missing, except the potassium, which is still a little bit missing. They're all in the green area. The deposits are filled up. Because this Regulat Pro Metabolic, produced by Niedermeyer Pharma, is like a carrier. It carries the substances into the cells. So you need to take much less of them and they enter much easier into the cells. There's no use taking big amounts of minerals and letting them just out to the toilet then. This is one of my important school tools. This Rechtsregulat Bio has the following scientifically proven effects. It's improved the immune system, nervous system, reduces inflammations, equilibrates the acid-base balance. It improves detoxification, regulates the blood sugar, is working positively on heart and circulation, and is a strong antioxidant. I asked for dental and oral health in my patient's history. Mainly, I ask, what about your wisdom teeth? Are they still in? Is there any connection between the extraction of the wisdom teeth and your first migraine? Do you have any dead or rotten teeth because they are conserved dead body parts and liberating permanently toxic substances? And according to my opinion, they should be taken out. Then I asked for amalgam. Yeah, you know, this black material where the dentists used to fill the teeth till a couple of years ago. Some might even do it today. For implantations, craniomandibular dysfunctions. I asked people also if they had treatments for the teeth. If there were retainers, yeah, retainers, you know, these wires that are after teeth treatment glued to the teeth. And then another very important point is the contraceptive question. Do you take the pill or any hormone spiral? Because what happens if you take the pill, anti-baby pill, you take chemical substances which block the receptors for progesterone. So the body believes that there's enough progesterone and it won't produce enough progesterone anymore. Yeah. So you have if you take the pill, you have a very low progesterone level. Now, if you know that progesterone is a very strong antidepressive and medicine and a very strong painkiller, you know that young woman with a progesterone level like an 80 years old woman will not feel perfectly healthy. Yeah. Some of them can compensate more or less, but most have unstable moods, depressive periods, and develop migraine, or at least one of these symptoms. Of course, if we recommend women, not to take contraceptives, we have to recommend other possibilities, other alternatives. And there I recommend for people who want to stay calm for the next 5 years, the copper spiral or copper chain, or natural contraception. Then I asked for tick bites. Why do I ask for tick bites? I want to give you one example. I had a young patient. She was around 25 years old, and I checked her laboratory, and I didn't find much. Just one thing: endotoxin. Her endotoxin level was much higher than usual. And the endotoxins, they usually rise if there is either an intestinal problem, microbiome problem, or a tooth problem. So I sent her first to the dentist. As she said, her intestine is perfectly okay. And the dentist checked her teeth and he found a rotten tooth with pus inside, and he took it out, gave her an antibiotic for 10 days, and after 2-3 weeks she called me and said, "Dr. Pfeiffer, I'm so happy. I think that was it. That tooth was it. The dentist took it out, gave an antibiotic, and now I don't have migraines anymore." So I thought, okay, how's that possible? Because certainly she won't have had this rotten tooth the last 20 years, yeah? And she had migraines since she was 5 years old. So what happens there? Then I asked her, okay, I don't understand it, but please call me next month again and tell me if it's still good. 2 weeks later, she called me and said, "Oh shit, Benny, again, migraine is coming back." So now I understood what happened. Yeah, she, the rotten tooth was not her main problem. It was the antibiotic that helped her. Yeah. Then we checked for Borrelia, for Lyme disease. Yeah, Borrelia, and we found that she was suffering from Lyme disease. And what happens if you suffer from Lyme disease and take an antibiotic? These microbes, some of them will die, some of them retire, somewhere withdraw somewhere in the cells, produce a capsule in around them, and won't be vulnerable to the antibiotic anymore. And then they wait until the air is clean, and as soon as there's no more antibiotic, they come out again, and the whole thing is triggered again. Migraines coming back. So this patient we had to treat with some natural products. I mean, I have to tell you, if somebody is suffering 20 years from Lyme disease, you can't forget to get the Borrelia, the microbes out of the body. Yeah, but we can live peacefully together with them, like with the billions of other bacteria we have in the intestine, if we just give them a hard time. Yeah, and there we can take some products like artemisinin, which won the Nobel Prize in the malaria research. When was that? 2015, I think. It won the Nobel Prize in the malaria research. And it helps very good against Lyme disease, not in the sense that the Lyme disease will be healed, but I met an old farmer woman from the Black Forest, and she had thick knees, suffering all her life from Lyme disease, but she was 94 years old. It won't kill you, but you have to try to keep it on a low level so you can peacefully live together with it. Then next point, I asked for nutrition habits and food intolerances. Most people think if they don't have diarrhea, they don't have food intolerances. They can eat everything without having diarrhea, so nothing. But then imagine diarrhea is not the only symptom, or stomach pain are not the only symptoms that food intolerance can produce. It can also make headache just as well. So I ask what do you eat for breakfast? And usually they tell me bread or muesli or porridge, something like that. Then for lunch, I hear often, yeah, mostly noodles. And in the evening, yeah, some cake or bread. Or so then if I tell them, so in the morning you eat bread, and for lunch you eat noodles, and in the evening cake. So you're living like a chicken, huh? It's just sugar and flour. It's not normal. It's not physiologic food, is it? And then they realize, yeah. And if these people have the genetic disposition of the Stone Age people, they will really have a hard time. And then I recommend them to reduce strongly these high carbohydrate products like sugar and flour products, and to eat enough good fat, and try this way to keep the blood sugar on a stable base. Another interesting question in this sense here is, does your migraine appear mostly at night or in the morning? Yeah, it's often a symptom of hypoglycemia during the night, during nighttime. These people, they can profit eating a fat late meal short time before going to sleep. Another question is, do you have mainly weekend migraines? If so, that's also very probable that these blood sugar fluctuations by carbohydrates are the cause. Because imagine if you, during the week, you have a high stress level, you have high cortisol levels, and cortisol is not only anti-inflammatory, it's also, it stabilizes the blood sugar level on a high level. So if on the weekends, I can hear that often from my teachers, for example, they come Friday, they come 1 o'clock, they go out of school, and then the migraine begins, or Saturday. Then, what is the explanation? Stress level goes down, cortisol level goes down, then they enjoy cakes and a lot of flour products, and blood sugar rises fastly and falls. A lot of insulin is produced and it falls down very fastly again, and no cortisol here to compensate these fluctuations. And so in the brainstem, you remember we have this sensor that checks permanently, is there enough sugar, enough water, enough oxygen? It will be triggered and neuropeptides will be liberated, and the blood vessel changes appear, and the trigeminous nerve is irritated, and we have the migraine then. And this is the other sugar disease, besides diabetes. It's almost, yeah, I mean, I think it's an addiction. Yeah, it's a strong addiction. And some people, you tell them what to do and they just can't leave it. I had one woman who was dependent to 5 drugs and sugar. And she said, and she managed to get rid of all her addictions. And she said sugar was the most difficult of all. Yeah. In these cases, if it's not possible to leave it away and change, then they need psychotherapy help to get rid of that addiction. A nice story here. I had a 6-year-old patient suffering from nightly migraines every night at 2 o'clock, also around two to 3 nights per week. Around 2 o'clock, she woke up with heavy migraine cramps. Her parents were desperate, yeah. They came to me after visiting very many other doctors already. And the little one, I asked her, oh, how old are you? Are you already 4 years old? A little bit embarrassing, huh? But because she looked so skinny, so small for 6 years, I didn't believe she was 6 years old. But no, she said, I'm already 6.5. And her mother said, yeah, she's little skinny and small because she's suffering from 2 to 3 migraines attack per week, and she can't sleep all night then. That's why she doesn't take weight. Okay, what I thought, what was my first idea? If it comes always at 2 o'clock at night, and the girl slept usually at 8 o'clock in the evening. So 6 hours later, migraine attacks. I asked her, what do you eat in the evening usually? Yeah, she said around 6 o'clock, we usually eat bread and with honey and some cake or a portion of noodles with some vegetables. Okay, I said, probably what you eat is not enough to keep your blood sugar level stable from 6 o'clock to 2 o'clock at night. And these 8 hours, it won't burn. Yeah, it's like putting a handful of straw into the oven and hoping it will burn all night. Yeah, it will give a beautiful flame and then it's gone. And then I told her, so every time, shortly before you go to sleep, eat something fat. Yeah, an egg, for example, or a handful of nuts, or a small slice of full corn bread with thick butter and a slice of salmon or something like that. So we have really a briquette in the oven, and your blood sugar stable can remain. Your blood sugar level can remain stable the whole night. That recommendation I gave her. Then I checked her for food intolerances, and we found very high values for gluten and wheat. Yeah. So I recommended her not to eat any wheat or gluten containing cereals, and come again after 4 weeks. Having the late food, 8 o'clock, and avoiding cereals. After 4 weeks, she came with her parents again and asked, how is it? How was it? And they smiled, and they said she had only one attack of migraine, and that was in the evening. She was too tired to eat her late meal. Yeah. Sometimes it can be so easy, but you just have to know what the causes can be. So one of my questions is, does the migraine attacks appear at certain hours or days of the week? Yeah, I told you already about that. The weekend migraine, or the early morning migraine, are usually sugar dependent, or if it's after work or on free days, it's also, this is very probable. Then I asked for pregnancies or birth, and did you suffer from migraine during your pregnancy? Because usually about 80% of the migraine patients don't suffer from migraine during the last 6 months of their pregnancy. How is that explainable? The explanation is that during the last 6 months of pregnancy, the progesterone levels are very high, yeah, 10 times higher than normal. And progesterone, as we said, is a strong antidepressive and and a strong painkiller. Yeah. So if we have high progesterone levels, it's very difficult for us to feel pain at all. That's why women, when they're pregnant, they're running around with this big belly and happy, not feeling. Many of them don't feel any pain, and every man, if he had that belly, he would die from pain. But the women, they are just enjoying. Huh? This is progesterone, and also during pregnancy, the uterus produces a lot of diamine oxidase, which is an enzyme that reduces histamine. Here you see the menstrual cycle and the progesterone elaboration. You see the green line is the progesterone level. The progesterone level, if you want to measure it, you should do that around the day 19 to 21 of the menstruation cycle, numbering from the first day of the menstruation. And there it should be at least between 6 and 10. I try to get it above 10 for migraine patients. And many of them don't have migraines anymore than if the level arrives over 10. And but let's have a look. It's not only the progesterone level that falls here during menstruation. You see there's sharp fall after day 21. It goes down to 28. And then around the menstruation, most migraine patients have their migraine. So what falls during menstruations? It's 4 parameters that fall during menstruation. It's progesterone level. It's also estrogen level, which is in this sense not so important here. Doesn't help much to take estrogen for migraine. Sometimes it even makes it worse. But it's serotonin, our well-feeling hormone, which we try to rise with antidepressive medicines, for example. And I give, instead of antidepressive medicines, I give usually 5-HTP, which is an amino acid, which is a precursor of serotonin. And if necessary, we give progesterone if there's low level progesterone, 5-HTP. Then I recommend people to drink a lot because water levels, liquid levels in the body are falling during menstruation, of course. Women lose a lot of blood, thereby also a lot of iron then. And you know, iron is important for the red blood cells to transport oxygen. If the red blood cells have not enough iron, they can transport less oxygen. And you remember in the brainstem, there's the control for oxygen, water, and liquid. And here then, if there's lack of iron, the oxygen measuring instance is triggered and the migraine goes on. So we can give iron, we can make patients drink a lot, give progesterone, bioidentical progesterone, not chemicals with hormone-like effect, and 5-HTP if we have patients with menstruation migraines. Potential medication triggers are antibiotics. You can imagine antibiotics, they not only destroy your microbiome, intestinal microbiome completely, they also destroy mitochondria, the energy plants, because mitochondria are very similar to bacteria. In the evolution, they probably, our mitochondria, they derive from bacteria, one cell bacteria, and they were integrated in the multi-cell organisms. And so everything that destroys mitochondria, that destroys bacteria, will destroy also mitochondria and give a state of low energy. Then fat-reducing pills, yeah, these statins, cholesterol lowers, destroy mitochondria and reduce energy productions and trigger migraine by that. Blood pressure pills, mainly beta blockers, are not only, they don't only produce depressions in many cases and low energy levels, and but they can also produce migraine attacks. Anti-epileptic pills, metformin, which is an anti-diabetic medicine, all those things can produce migraine. Then eye disorders, ask for astigmatism, mainly if there's this astigmatism only on one eye and on the other not. Yeah, if it's the same defect on both eyes, it's not a big problem. But if it's only on one side, yeah, if I have an astigmatism on the right side, then I will always try to compensate it by turning my head a little bit and stress always my neck muscles in a certain way, which will produce migraine attacks, which will probably appear always on the same side then. Also myopia or hypermetropia. If on one eye you see better than on the other eye, and this is not compensated by glasses, then also the head will always, with a good eye, will try to turn the head a little bit, so it will be a little bit nearer to the object that you want to see. Then convergence deficiency, there you can easily make a test yourself. You take a pencil on your extended arm and come slowly near to your eyes and try to come together with both eyes. And then have somebody, your husband or whoever, check this if your eyes go together. Yeah, if one eye disappears to the side and doesn't go together, that means you have a convergence deficiency, and this will then probably also one cause for migraine, because if, for example, your right eye is weaker, yeah, and that it is, if you can't hold the inside position, your right eye is weaker. And then we have in the brain, we have this oculomotoric connections, nerve connections. So the right eye is connected to the left neck muscles. Yeah. So if the right eye is weaker, the left neck muscles will also contract weaker than on the other side. And that will draw the first vertebra, the atlas, into a inclination position, yeah, to the right or left side, and then this arteria, vertebral arteria, might be compressed, so one part of the brain gets less blood supply, less oxygen supply, and also the nerves around here are very important nerves. One of the highest center of the sympathetic nervous system is here in front of the first two vertebrae, might be irritated, and many connections are here in this area to the trigeminous nerve also, and then this can declench migraine attack as well. So we have to look for eye disorders as well. Then I asked for the impact of sport. Is your migraine better after sport, or will it be worse so you can't even do any sport because your migraine gets so worse? If it gets better, that's often a sign of lack of oxygen, yeah, because during sports you inhale more, and your oxygen supply is improving, so you can improve your headaches. But in most cases it's worse, and that's often if then the neck is unstable, the cervical spine is unstable, and then what I described before, this nitro-oxidative stress will be produced, and the mitochondria are annoyed and destroyed. Then I asked whenever you took antibiotics, were your migraines better or worse? Again, if they were worse, an intestinal problem because you destroy your intestinal flora with antibiotics. If they were better, like in the case of this young woman I told you, then it might be Lyme disease or something similar, some kind of microbes who react to the antibiotic. Now we come to the microbiome, intestinal microbiome. With my laboratory, what we can check here is the diversity of the microbiome. You see, normally we should have around 32,000 different tribes of bacteria. And here in this patient, you see the indicator is in the red zone. There's almost no bacteria left, just a handful of leftover bacteria, and a lot of flora of putrefaction, a lot of rotten stuff in the intestine, lack of immunoactive acidification flora, a lot of histamine building flora, pH too high. So the surrounding is not acid enough for the good bacteria. And then here I gave I did a therapy, around half year's therapy here with 5 different medicines, lactobacterias and Rechtsregulat and a few others. And after 6 months, we could see that the diversity came back into the green area, but still there were some, it was not perfectly all right. And this patient, I did another thing. I gave a microbiome transfer, which is a new kind of therapy since a couple of years. We can do that. We take the microbiome of a healthy person, yeah, and give that either by irrigation from downstairs through the intestine, or by capsules. There's an enterprise near Heilbronn which produces capsules, dual capsules of proven healthy people, and so we can implant a new intestinal flora if necessary. This is the fastest way to improve the intestinal flora, to give healthy flora from a healthy person. Of course, this is a disgusting idea to do that, and we do it only if people are really desperate and we don't manage to improve their flora with other methods. So in the laboratory examinations, what I check for food tolerance, diamine oxidase, the enzyme which is important to reduce histamine in the body. I check the hormone levels, mainly progesterone, estrogen, serotonin, sometimes cortisone, adrenaline. All these hormones can, thyroid hormones, all these hormones can be implicated in the migraine generation. Nitrostress, oxidative stress, endotoxin, and rantes, which are laboratory values which are for tooth problems. CD57, which and LTT for Lyme disease. CD57 is a cheap, relatively cheap thing to test. It's around 33 euros only. And if that is good, we don't have to think for Lyme disease and other infections like that. And if it's very much reduced, below 60, then it's worth to check furthermore for Lyme disease and others, and then it gets a little costly. Then the mineral profile we check the long-term blood sugar and check the microbiome. The third step then, after patient's history and laboratory analysis in the migraine research, is osteopathy. The osteopathic examinations. Most of you know osteopathy if you come from English-speaking countries. Here in Germany, we just introduced it like about 30 years ago. But in America, it was founded in 1874 by Andrew Taylor Still. Osteopathy is applied biomechanics. Yeah, we check visually and by putting our hands on what's wrong in the body, how the posture is there a difference of length of the legs, is the right shoulder higher, how is the position of the neck, can the head be rotated in both directions, how many degrees, things like that. And then we try to find out what the causes are for the dysfunctions we find and try to fix them. And then we see what happens. Yeah, we check the posture first in space, in underwear. We check the eyes, we check the teeth, the feet, the spine, the inner organs, and the skull and the sacrum. And then we have an idea what is wrong in the body. Sometimes, for example, I have patients, or many times I have patients who can't turn the head more than 30 degrees to one side. Sometimes not even to the other side. And then we have a lot of interesting tests to find out what the reason is. Yeah. For example, if I make them bite on a rolled paper, yeah, with their teeth, and then they turn the head again, and then they come to 90 degrees, and I know, okay, there's a problem between the teeth somewhere. So I send them to the dentist or lose the jaw muscles. And then I can help them. And sometimes it's the diaphragm. Yeah, then I lift the diaphragm. I put my hands under the ribs, lift the diaphragm, make them again, turn the head left, right. If it works much better, that means they have a problem, an uprising dysfunction from the diaphragm or from the belly, inner organs maybe. And so we have many tests like that to find out what the causes are and to fix them. Here you see a typical migraine spine. Yeah, not every migraine patient must have a migraine spine, but if you see a spine like this, you can be almost sure that the patient has migraine. And if a patient with migraine comes and shows a spine like this, you can be sure you cannot cure this migraine before you get the sensitivity out of this area here. These people, if you check, if you press beside the vertebra on the left or right side in this area where we find this deformation, it's very sensitive to pressure. And I usually inject these areas with lidocaine solution. Lidocaine is a local anesthetic, and this has to be quite often until nothing is sensitive anymore. And besides that, we have to do some exercises to get the tension out of this area and to do regular osteopathic treatment. This takes a long time, maybe a week, maybe a year or so, to get these people here, to get them rid of their migraine. And still they have to collaborate and come sometimes for a consultation. But if the spine is normally formed, you see, normally the head, for example, should be on the right. You see here, this head is like at least 10 centimeters in front of the thoracic spine here. And if you find this, if we draw a line like this, it would go here. Yeah? If we have patients where the head is on the same line with the thoracic spine, and then it's usually not the, and there's no sensitive areas here in this area, then it's usually not a spine problem. Genau. Then after osteopathic examination, I do neurotherapeutic testing and therapy. There, we must know that scars and chronic inflammations are interference fields, and they can appear in any, they can irritate in every area of the body. You might have a scar, for example, on your hand, on your right hand, which produces headache on the right side. And you can't find out until you neutralize this irritation field, this interference field, by injecting it, flooding it with procaine, which is a local anesthetic that works for 20 minutes. And in these 20 minutes, the interference field is taken out of the body, and the body can compensate, can regulate. And many times, if we find the right field of interference, the migraine is immediately gone. And it might appear again after a longer period, and then we inject the same interference field again, and the next appearance will be even longer, and after 3, 4, 5 times, it will be gone. And everything else you try to do, every other treatment, if it's an interference field, will not help. Yeah, it's just like looking for your key in front of the house when you lost it in the forest. Yeah, it's not helpful. Yeah, there are different types of neurotherapy. First of all, neurotherapy is like acupuncture, regulation therapy, which works on the nervous system. It's we can do segmental treatment, like giving a few injections in different skin areas. We can treat scars as interference fields, and we can set nerve blocks, which where we go deep. Sometimes I inject here in the neck area with a 6 centimeter needle right to the nerves which are responsible for migraine. In difficult cases, I send people to CT or MRI or upright MRI. Yeah, the upright MRI, you can see if there is an unstable neck. The normal MRI, you cannot see if the neck is unstable. In the upright MRI, you sit and you turn the neck in different positions, and then every time they make pictures, and then later you see in the pictures if your neck is unstable or not. There's no other way to prove that. Then OPG or DVT, OPG is a two-dimensional picture of the teeth, where we lose about 50% of the problems. We don't see them. Better is DVT, three-dimensional pictures, which we can turn on the computer. We can turn in every direction and turn the whole teeth in every area. So we in every direction, above the left, right side, and we see where something's wrong. And then cavitate is a bone density measuring machine where you can see if there is in the jaw bones, if there's a problem in the jaw bones, if there is rotten tissue in the jaw bones. The most frequent therapy obstacles I found are the pill, anticonceptional pill, and second is retainers. Yeah, this wires glued in to keep the teeth in position, and the third is nutrition. Yeah, and there, if you have questions about nutrition, it's a large field. You can ask Anne, who specialized very much in this nutrition field. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. So if you like, you can ask questions now.
If it's okay, I'll just jump in. And well, first of all, thank you for such a great and informative presentation. I always learn something new every time you present, but the great thing is that there's hope at hand. I can obviously personally testify that migraines are curable, as I discussed earlier. And before the questions, and I know that we're slightly short on time, but I wanted to introduce a little bit about the work that I'm setting out to do. And really, with the journey that I've gone through with the migraines, and for many years, I've wanted to pursue work in the health and well-being sector. And the move to Munich, in fact, helped to give me a bit of time to actually investigate basically moving into that sector. And I found an opportunity to study at an Institute of Integrative Nutrition, which meant that I have been able to get certified as a health coach. And interestingly, COVID and healing from my migraines actually catapulted me into really becoming to practice in the area. And I'm very grateful also for having met Roland, Dr. Pfeiffer, and getting my healing to that point that I actually could practice, because otherwise I would not be able to maintain a regular practice. Really with the work I'm doing, my aim is really to take the diagnosis, for instance, that Dr. Pfeiffer is able to do, and then help people to make some of the lifestyle changes that may be difficult to do on your own, but with a coach and an accountability partner, it becomes easier. A lot of what we've talked about, and that Dr. Pfeiffer mentioned, some of the food habits that we have now are causing more stress on our system. So this is definitely an area that I look at within the program that I offer. And obviously, if I'm working with migraines, it would be from the treatment plan that Dr. Pfeiffer provides, or somebody of the type of functional doctor, but then it's then putting the other things in motion in terms of changing some of these habits that we have. And what I've noticed is working with people now that we have a very high emotional attachment to our foods. And once we start fueling our body in a natural way, sorry, not in a natural way, but more based on our heritage, it becomes easier for us to start looking at why is it that we have an emotional attachment. And that's why there might be some other factors in this process that we look at, and that could be high stress levels. Maybe you're not in the right, you're not feeling fulfilled in your day-to-day. So these are some of the things that I've noticed whilst working with people. This becomes some of the things that we discuss. And once we become aware of it, the relationship to our food changes as well. So the beauty of what I've set out to do is that we have to look at our lives in such a holistic way. And that's where I'm excited that I've been able to launch into this. And there's a couple of testimonials also on my website. But the Karen, for instance, is moving now in a much forward with her life, being much more aware and moving into sort of optimal health, making sure she doesn't end up in burnout. So, and just, sorry, there's another couple there. And Audrey was actually pre-diabetic, and we managed to get her to have some great blood results. So she was back to stability. And that is very much in line with what Dr. Pfeiffer was saying about our blood sugar levels being up and down. So she wasn't necessarily suffering from migraines, but it's definitely something that if you don't address could end up putting some stresses on the body. So those are my details, and a lot of you have already been on my website or found me on social media. So I thank you very much for following me if you are. And thank you for being here tonight. And I'll hand over to questions. I think there were some in the chat, and I think Paula was going to maybe read them out.
Good. Yes, I have. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. There's about 8 or 9 questions, so it's good. People started putting questions since the beginning.
Okay.
The first one is from, I apologize on pronouncing names, from Nevenka, and her question was, can migraines affect the trigeminus or trigeminal nerve?
The irritation of the trigeminal nerve is the cause for migraine. Yeah. I mean, there's no migraine without trigeminal nerve irritation. What you mean probably is trigeminal neuralgia. Do you mean that?
And please feel free to unmute. Yeah.
Is Nevenka still here?
Yes, here I am. Yeah,
Yes.
Thank you for answering my question. The problem for me is that I'm suffering from migraines since a long, long time, and now it started to affect the nerve in the sense that I get a lot of pain on my left side, and I think it's a trigeminus nerve because it starts in my jawline and then to the middle, then to the head. It lasts about a week, more or less. And I'm a little bit afraid that the nerves may be damaged by now, and it happens when I have migraines, but in the last months I didn't have that many, but I had that pain coming back even when I don't have migraines.
That's it's an irritation of the trigeminus nerve because there's no other nerve that might cause pain in that area. And it's the same that causes migraine. That is responsible for all the teeth and the whole jaw, the upper and lower jaw. And my idea is to check if there is a connection from, and often there's a sympathetic irritation in the neck area, and there's a lot of connections between sympathetic nervous system and trigeminous nerve. Yeah, and if you came to my practice, for example, I would try first osteopathically to put the cervical spine in order, and then if there's not enough, to inject lidocaine solution in the irritated areas. You might have some pressure sensitive points in the cervical spine, or if not, then I would try to inject the different nerve centers, ganglion pericopallatinum here, for example, ganglion supreme ganglion, and some other areas, or even superficial nerve areas for the trigeminous nerve, where it comes out here and distributes in its three branches. So this is can be results in a combination of osteopathy and neural therapy, to my opinion.
Actually, Nevenka also had a question whether cold showers are beneficial.
Yeah, in fact, I have a few cases of that. I have that book here. Huh? You probably refer to that guy. What's his name?
Wim Hof.
Yeah. Wim Hof, exactly. Yeah. He wrote a good book, and he describes he describes how cold showers can influence the vagus nerve and can reduce pain. And this book, again, one patient brought it to me, and she told me she had about 20 migraine attacks per month. And since she discovered this method, it's a method of breathing, and a combination of breathing and cold showers. She started, every time she gets a migraine attack, she stands on the cold shower for 3 to 7 minutes and put the shower mainly in the area of the neck, the shoulders, and the front. Yeah, and she said in like 90% of the migraine attacks, she can stop it within 3 to 7 minutes with these cold showers. So I recommend it to some people, but most people, if they hear it already, they refuse to try. But I had three patients who profited very much of this method. Yeah, you can try that. Yeah, cold shower.
Nevenka, does that answer some of the questions you had?
Yes, the cold showers, I have to say the last 2 months, I have reduced my migraines from 15 days a month to down to 2. I'm not sure what helped me, and I'm not sure if this is going to continue like this. Maybe I'm just lucky, I don't know. But I try to believe that something helped. And the cold showers I'm doing daily now, almost daily. And I have the feeling they do help. I can't explain it because I'm not a doctor, but I think they help.
Yeah, I can recommend that book. It's a really interesting book.
Yeah.
Never Getting Sick, I think is the title, huh? Something like that. Nie wieder krank in German.
Yeah.
And this guy, he did tremendous things, and he swims in cold water, and on the North Pole he did a marathon run at -7 degrees and a swimming trunk and things like that. It's amazing what he did.
Yeah.
sitting in an ice cube for 1 hour, in a barrel full of ice cubes and things like that.
Yeah.
Cool. We and in the beginning we had a ping pong of questions between Nevenka and Cindy. So we had the first two questions from Nevenka. Cindy was asking, how do we determine the gene that can influence the migraines?
Yeah, there's a genetic analysis you can do. I mean, first of all, before you try to do expensive genetic analysis, is try to follow low-carb diet and see how you feel. At least 1 month before you say it doesn't work, try 1 month very hard paleo diet, Stone Age diet, no sugar, no flour, no sweets, and then you see if it's a genetic component, it might be much better. And then if you want to do some genetic analysis, you can test the comp polymorphism, which is an analysis that costs around 130 euros. If you have comp polymorphism, then in the mitochondria, some processes are differently working, and then you have to take different products to satisfy this genetic disposition to feel good, to feel well with this genetic disposition. Comp polymorphism, COMP, COMT, comp polymorphism is the name of the analysis. Yeah.
Maybe you can share that with Anne, and then we share with the participants, Dr. Pfeiffer. So the next question from Nevenka, is CBD oil, or I had to Google it, cannabidiol beneficial for migraines?
Yes, in some cases, yes. I had some cases where it was beneficial. CBD oil is without THC, without the psychoactive component of cannabis. And for example, my daughter, she doesn't suffer from migraine, but she has premenstrual pain. And it helps her very much. She takes a couple of drops of CBD oil, and then she has no pain during before and during menstruation. And then some patients take it regularly every day, a couple of drops, to reduce the intensity of migraines. And then I have heard of patients, some patients smoke joints when they get a migraine, and in some cases it helps. Yeah, in some cases it helps, in some cases it doesn't help. This is what people try. Nowadays, if it helps, we have the possibility since like 2-3 years in Germany to prescribe with a special prescription, even the cannabis flowers. So for pain patients, they don't have to drop in illegal actions.
Cool. We now have excuses to try to smoke some joints.
Yeah, exactly.
Cindy, I would have to ask you to help me with this one. I can't remember where it was. Your question was, how long does it last?
What?
Yeah, I have to ask. Cindy asked this question, but I
Yeah,
can't remember the context.
No, I can't remember either. Sorry, I missed that slide. But I did ask another question, so maybe we just skip to that.
Oh, yes.
Do some people dehydrate? Sorry, Paolo, shall I just say it?
No, no, please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. Do some people dehydrate quicker than others? I personally find I dehydrate quicker than others. I did live in the desert. And since I lived in the desert, I have a problem because I once suffered with low salt. I drank and drank and drank, and I think I drank too much, where I depleted myself with salt. And now I just dehydrate quicker than other people. So I then, instead of just having water, I'll add salt and a little bit of honey.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing though.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think, yeah, some people dehydrate easier than others or faster than others. And that might be also a genetic component. Because if you imagine if you have ancestors who lived 5,000 years in the desert, then you're much better genetically adapted to the heat and to the dehydration than people who lived in the Green Valleys of England. Huh?
I do remember the question. Sorry, Paolo.
Yes, please go ahead.
It was the injections. How long do they last? Like, do you put them in and then you've kind of solved the problem, or do you have to keep coming back for more?
Well, in some of the patients, I showed you the pictures of the cervical spine. When they come, I give the injections, and during the injection, the migraine, in about 70% of the cases, the migraine will disappear during the injections. Yeah? And that was also diagnostically interesting, because then I know there must be the reason. From there, it starts the whole thing. And then, of course, as long as the irritation is there, and the irritation is this unfortunate form of the cervical spine, it will come again, yeah, of course. And there, these injections, we have to do them until no more painful points can be felt beside the thoracic and cervical spine here. And that's a long process, which takes months, sometimes a year, to get rid of these points which are sensitive on pressure. And it's a combination only neurotherapy plus osteopathy plus exercises. If you do only exercises and nothing else, it's not enough. If you do only injections and nothing else, it's also not very long time lasting.
Okay, thank you. No, although I'm rid of migraines, I still get pain, so it might be something I have to come and visit you for. Thank you.
Welcome.
Also, and apologies, Cindy, I think I jumped your questions, was not intentional. Let's see if I don't skip any more. I think the next one was from, and I apologize for my name pronunciation, Migraines. That's correct. I heard Hen saying a few times. So specifically talking about vestibular migraine, are there any different reasons for why sufferers might get this compared to headaches or a migraines?
Vestibular migraine, that going ahead with the vertigo. They usually, I have not so many people with vestibular migraines, once in a while, and I do usually the same treatments. There might be a slight tendency of being cervical problems more often responsible for this vestibular migraines than for other migraines. Yeah, in many cases, it's the first 2 or 3 vertebrae responsible, and there I would work on.
Is there anything else that you would treat differently with vestibular migraine? You know, beyond just on the physical, or is there anything other related to diet, or is there any other differences?
No, just I would focus on the cervical spine more than on other migraine cases. Yeah.
Okay.
Would you still recommend reducing or changing some of the diet?
Yes, I would try to, at least, yeah, to take as much as possible out of the barrel.
Mm.
Yeah.
Have you heard of PPPD? Perceived persistent postural dizziness.
Oh yeah, that's also that appears when again in the area of the first 2 vertebrae, the irrigation of the brain is disturbed, and so we have to work on that area. So.
And is it you're saying to get more oxygen and air in is by working on those areas to allow?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
I have one patient, for example, who suffers from that problem, and it takes me about 1 hour to work only on the first 2 vertebrae to get it in move and to get the second vertebra into the right position, and then it will remain in the right position for about 3 weeks, and then she'll come again and I have to do it again.
So this is an osteopathic treatment?
Yeah.
Not injections, for instance.
Yeah, well, I went to an osteo recently for some treatments because it was really bad. It was quite stuck in for like a whole week. And yeah, it did help, you know, releasing tension into the head.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so is there anything other than osteo treatment? Is there that I could do even myself, or you know, or does it have to be osteo treatment?
Yeah, you can try to do yoga exercises, for example.
Yeah.
Yoga asanas.
Mm-hmm.
Just
yeah, I practice yoga.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, then you can try to figure out which asana is for you advantageous, and which might worsen the symptoms. Yeah? Because not every asana will help for that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so next we have a question from Ingrid's daughter. So her question is, and I am an 18-year-old and manage my migraines by continuous use of the pill. How could this negatively impact my health, and what would you suggest?
Okay, there are some few patients, I guess less than 5%, who really have an advantage for the migraine by taking the pill. Yeah, 95% feel worse, and it worsens their migraine if they take the pill. What you do if you take the pill, you take chemical substances with hormone-like effects who block the receptors for progesterone, and so your body will reduce the progesterone production strongly. So then, knowing that progesterone is a strong antidepressive and mood stabilizing hormone, which also reduces pain very much, you're walking around with a hormone level of an 80-year-old woman, as far as the progesterone is concerned. 80, yeah, you're 18, but you have a hormone level of 80, years old woman, and that must usually I see if young women take the pill that their mood is unstable. They are much easier to annoy, to get aggressive, to get depressive also, because it's antidepressive progesterone, and it's not previewed by nature that a young woman of 18 years old walks around with a hormone level of an 80-year-old woman. And then knowing that progesterone is the precursor of cortisone, of aldosterone, of testosterone, you must know that all the other hormones will be also reduced, and you're more susceptible to different diseases like exhaustion syndromes, fatigue syndromes, pain syndromes. Yeah, but as I said, some few patients feel very happy with the pill and have no migraines, even though most have more migraines when they take the pill. But if you belong to the ones who feel very good, you don't have mood problems, no depressive feelings, and your migraines are gone with the pill, okay, then that's your therapy.
So do you have any like suggestions of what else I should take or not take?
For anti-conception or for pain?
Yeah, I mean, for migraines, I used to get them monthly, and they said that was for hormonal and probably menstrual. And now I keep taking the pill even when I'm supposed to have when I'm supposed to menstruate, so I don't get the migraines. So I skip menstrual cycles.
So you don't have migraines with this under the pill, yeah?
Well, sometimes, but less.
But less, yeah. Yeah. Well, I would try to take bioidentical progesterone instead of the pill. Of course, it doesn't help against getting pregnant, but it's would be the much healthier method, in the long run. I mean, you're only 18, and if you take that decades and decades till you're 50, 30, 32 years to pill, nobody knows what that makes with your body.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Dr. Pfeiffer, I wanted to check in with you because we're significantly over time. If you can still answer some more questions, or
yeah, that's no problem.
Okay, so there's a question from Marisa. I started getting migraines at 16 years after battling monovirus. Is there something connected to the Barr-Epstein virus? I have never been the same since, and I am 43 years old now.
Yes. This mononucleosis caused by Epstein-Barr virus is one of the causes for chronic headache and chronic exhaustion syndrome, burnout, chronic fatigue syndrome. And I found just 2 years ago an interesting therapy. Again, one of my patients told me she read a book written by Anthony William, an American, and he proposes in these cases 28 days vegan diet Yeah, in these cases, it's not of any use to do the low carb paleo diet we usually give. They have to follow 28 days, completely vegan, salt-free, flour-free, meat-free, and fat-free diet. Mainly only green stuff, vegetables, and some potatoes. 28 days. And if it's caused by Epstein-Barr virus, they will feel much better after these 28 days. I have 2 patients who are so happy with this diet that they, even after the 28 days, still continue basically that kind of nutrition. There's interesting books written by Anthony William, for example. He wrote the book Media Medicine and Medical Food. He wrote one book, and Media Medicine. Yeah, Media Medicine. Yeah, it's I mean, it's a little bit difficult for me as a doctor to refer to Anthony William, because he is calling himself a medical medium, and it's a special story. It's not something about science here, but as long as it helps, why not?
There is another doctor which is part of the physicians committee in the States. I forget his name now, but he has a 21-day program, and he's more of a functional doctor. So I'm familiar with the medical medium, where this doctor, sorry, I forget his name now, but he's
Neil Bernard.
Yes, Neil Bernard, thank you. Very interesting doctor, has a lot of science behind what he says, and it's very similar to the same thing. It's a vegan diet, but low on fat as well, and has some very interesting support in terms of firing up your mitochondria in your cells as a result. So happy to share any of that if anybody's interested.
If anybody's interested, I resumed this diet on one page, and I can send it to Anne, and you can distribute it if you like, if you don't want to read the whole book.
That's great. There's another question from Heidi. I think this is more directed to Anne. When she mentioned food from our heritage, meaning which country we come from, culture, or back to the caveman diet. I'm not sure if I'm correct. Heidi, is she still in the call?
Hi, yes.
Yes.
It's probably more to Anne.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
Yeah, I think it also relates back to what Dr. Pfeiffer was talking about. It really relates to what our heritage was also feeding on. Dr. Pfeiffer mentioned something to me when I was struggling with my migraines, and they were not as bad as before, but I was getting headaches, and he explained also that my heritage is Nordic, very much fatty fish, and I hadn't considered that. I then, when I was getting some headaches, I took some oil or some mackerel, and this helps very quickly.
Or French fries. Sorry, I have to say
French fries even worked.
Well, this was sort of the question, maybe to both of you then. Do you think that people who comes from, like us, Nordic, we grew up eating bread, a lot of bread, dark bread. So would that be maybe not as important for Nordic people to cut out as for other people? I don't know. Do you understand the question or where I'm heading?
I think it goes further back, but Dr. Pfeiffer,
Okay.
maybe you.
Yeah. You see,
yes.
Still about 100 years ago, this bread stuff was not the problem yet. The last 100 years, scientists were trying to grow the percentage of gluten in the cereals, in the wheat, so much that it's really not anything natural anymore. Yeah, like 100 years ago, our wheat had only about 1% of the gluten containment of now. Yeah, nowadays we have 100 times more gluten in it, and as Anne said, it goes much further back. This heritage, if your ancestors ate maybe a couple of 100 or 1,000 years brown bread, it was not the bread what we eat nowadays. Yeah, it was something different, of natural grass seeds, things like that.
Yeah, they've also scientifically they have proven that based on our blood types,
Yeah.
there is a significant influence of what you can tolerate. I didn't when I first heard about this, I wasn't supportive of it, but now I've seen the scientific evidence. It makes sense. So O being the oldest blood, and that's why the O's can support eating meat much more than the younger bloods.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they can get problems if they don't sometimes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. So we have another question from Mairead.
I think this is probably the last one.
No, I have one as well at the end. So
okay.
It's Mairead was asking if you have heard of a link between childhood travel sickness and adult migraine.
What kind of sickness? Childhood?
Travel sickness.
Travel sickness.
Travel sickness. Yeah, travel sickness is there's a strong connection to histamine intolerance. Yeah, there's even a book about that. Histamine intolerance and travel sickness, I think it's called. And one of the reasons from migraine can be histamine, a high histamine level. Yeah? And if you suffer from travel sickness, your body produces in these moving vehicles a lot of histamine. Yeah, that's why antihistaminic treatments like Vomex or high dose vitamin C help for these cases. And the same you can try from migraine. One of the tests is to take when you feel the first signs of migraine, you take a Vomex A tablet or suppositor, and then you see if it works or not. In some cases, the migraine disappears very faster even if you inject it. You can even inject Vomex A. I sometimes inject Vomex A with vitamin B12 and magnesium in the beginning migraine, and in some cases it disappears within 20 minutes. Yeah. And you can try that as a medical.
And that's called Vomex A.
Vomex A, yes. You can buy that without prescription.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
So thank you so much. And Mairead, you sound exactly like Noreen. It's impressive. Dr. Pfeiffer, thank you so much. For me, I'm here more to support, but it was very interesting to see. And I also had some migraines. I remembered today that I had some migraines while I was in university. But I was just more curious, are migraines more common in women than in men? Because we can see the audience as well.
Yeah, it's about 80%. It's a woman problem. And even though it's 20% men, only 10% of my patients are men here coming with migraine, because men usually, as long as they're not half dead, they don't go to the doctor.
Okay.
I think they have to manage themselves.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you very much, Anne and Paulo. Yeah. Do you have any more questions?
No. Well, I suppose the question would be, if anybody from the audience wanted to speak to you further, would you do a consultation online with them, or how can they, if they're not living in Germany?
Yeah, we can do that, no problem. Yeah.
Okay. So if any of you obviously can't get to Stuttgart, then that could be a consideration, because I know a few people are in Spain and Holland and the UK.
Ireland.
So, yeah. So
good.
Your book is also available on Amazon, and it's a very good read. So I'd highly recommend, if you haven't read it. That's
you can get it in English and Spanish.
Yeah.
And German, yeah.
So thank you everybody for tuning in, and apologies, it was a longer session, but as you can see, Dr. Pfeiffer has a lot of information, very interesting. And thank you so much for your time, Dr. Pfeiffer.
Thank you very much, Anne, for preparing everything and introducing me so nicely.
Yeah. Okay.
Have
a great evening, everyone.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Everyone.
Bye.
Night.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Bye. Hola, Heidi. ¿Dónde vas?
Oh, I'm still here, yes. Can you see me? I cannot see myself.
No, your camera is switched off.
I've been trying to look like, how can I get this on? What am I doing?
Yeah, on the bottom left, there should be something that says mute or stop video. If you click on
stop video.
Yeah. But
and now one more.
Yeah, but not is.
Are you on your phone or are you on your computer?
I'm on my phone because my computer is so crap. I need to buy a new one. I'm on a mission.
So I can go there and fix your computer. I just charge accommodation.
Yes.
I'm in Portugal
Please
now.
Please come back and sort my technique stuff on. But can we not go on a WhatsApp thing together?
Yeah, let's do that.
And actually, I should stop.
Get my camera on then.
I should stop recording this.
Is